domestic and global agendas. Our response must be based on the use of new technologies. New technologies are making very rapid transformation of the digital economy, changing business models, tax bases, and economic activities. We see emergence of the use of blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the growth of cryptocurrencies and sharing economy. These changes will impact which taxes should be collected and the way they can be collected. Transformation is required for tax administration. Otherwise, there might be issues in terms of collecting taxes. On the other hand, use of new technologies can help improving taxpayer services and therefore ensuring compliance. Tax administration are now using new technologies in order to help taxpayers to comply with the tax laws, and it's very important that revenue authorities should work together with taxpayers to make sure that the rules can be effectively applied. Taxpayer service is a key of the tax administration. The quality of taxpayer service is one of the most important indicators of the tax reform. More and more revenue authorities have made online taxpayer service a major goal of the digital transformation. They simplify the tax processes and build online systems to enable taxpayers to handle their tax business on laptops or mobile phones. The taxpayer services have been gradually upgraded from 8-5 counter services to 24/7 online services, from one-stop all-in-one to anytime and anywhere business. This upgrade involves not only taxpayer services, but also the network connectivity and the tax data management. Building a data-driven and intelligence-led tax environment has become a consensus among the revenue authorities. Therefore, we see many of them have built data governance framework and capabilities. Digital transformation opens the door of many opportunities within tax. The use of new technologies are helping revenue authorities for their digital transformation. Cloud computing technology, for instance, more than 60% of revenue authorities consider building cloud-based ICT infrastructure. This will not only significantly reduce CapEx investment, but also enable more technological innovations with new technologies to enhance their back office operations and taxpayer services. Artificial intelligence and robotics are also used in revenue authorities for process automation and tax data analysis. Robotic process automation is a software. It's a tool that mimics human beings do. Many processes will be automated efficiently through robotics. Besides working much faster, it can be configured to work 24/7. We have one case that we use RPA to do routine work, such as cutting, paste, data entry, and classification, which reduce up to 60% of the workload. Artificial intelligence has the ability to automate the routine and allow tax professionals to focus on the critical missions. Meanwhile, we also see revenue authorities are increasingly using robotics and artificial intelligence together with the big data-based prediction models to do the advanced analytics that allow them to have better visibility over the trends and risks, utilizing the historical patterns and information to suggest the tax professionals. 5G is a software-defined network. It means it won't replace cables entirely. It could replace the need of them by largely operations on the cloud instead. This means it will have 100 times better capacity than 4G, which will dramatically improve internet speeds. For example, to download a 2-hour film on 3G would take about 26 hours. On 4G, you'll be waiting for 6 minutes, and on 5G, you'll be ready to watch your film in just 3.5 seconds. But it's not just the internet capacity that will be upgraded. The response time will also be much faster. The 4G network responds to our commands in just under 50 milliseconds. With 5G, it will take around 1 millisecond, 400 times faster than a blink of the eye. 5G will also provide a much more personalized web experience using a technique called network slicing that will allow users to create their own bespoke network. Being able to personalize internet will also benefit the tax administration. It may not come overnight, but 5G is coming. The Revenue Authority's user base is changing. When all taxpayers, both corporate and individual taxpayers, need to access to the tax services, this means that more than half of the citizens of a country are the users of the system. Revenue authorities must pay more attention to the way that how taxpayers access the tax services. The internal connections among the tax offices may support the back office operations well, but they are not enough for taxpayers. The accessibility from taxpayers to the services become more and more important, and the revenue authorities need to build not only a powerful internal network, but also a stable and secure internet connection to all its resources. Revenue authorities are demanding unprecedented amount of data from taxpayers that include information directly from taxpayers and indirectly from other systems. This data is not only the entries of return forms, it's also all the details of the transaction data and behavior data, interchange data, and the credit data. This data will be used for tax analysis by regions and industries to indicate the national economy of the country, as well as transaction network and the product structure analysis of the country. Besides, revenue authorities are performing increasingly sophisticated analytics on data to find compliance risk. Data can really improve the analysis of taxpayers' risk. For instance, the revenue authority in China are now comparing the power consumption of companies with similar conditions to detect risks of company. Companies who consume electricity over the average cost will be reviewed. The tax big data analysis also supports on decision-making of tax law and policy changes. Decisions are primarily taken based on the information derived from the data. With big data-based prediction models, policymakers should be able to simulate the impact of the policy change and make decisions accordingly. Blockchain is a potential technology that can easily improve the government services and foster fair and transparent citizen rights. We see that blockchain has been widely used in many tax administrations. For example, the electronic invoice management system is using blockchain as an infrastructure for the sharing of transaction data and facilitating the collaborative processes of accounting, tax, and business. The solution builds nodes among relevant companies and the revenue authorities and use a hybrid ledger to manage the whole life cycle of an invoice from the transaction happens until it will be archived. The use of blockchain technology is building a trust among the stakeholders based on the transaction, which not only benefits the revenue authority for its tax collection, but also taxpayers for their finance and supply chain management. Most importantly, it's paperless and structured data. Huawei utilized the one cloud, one lake, one platform architecture to help revenue authorities innovate their services and create business value. The one cloud, one lake, one platform architecture based on Huawei IT infrastructure aims to help customers accelerate system integrations and information sharing. One cloud refers a converged cloud infrastructure. One lake refers a data lake, which provides full lifecycle data processing capabilities, including data collection, storage, computing, management, and utilization. It allows revenue authorities to transform their data resources into data assets. One platform is a unified application enablement platform that integrates basic data services, general purpose middlewares, and components to enable service innovations. The hybrid cloud infrastructure is our recommendations to revenue authorities. It combines private cloud for internal operating systems and sensitive tax data storage, and the public access of the taxpayers to the tax services. According to our practice with one tax authority customer, the use of a hybrid cloud will save 30% of the total cost by average, and also shorten the time of tax service implementation by 30% as well. Cloud is a chain, and cloud has already come. The digital transformation is a set of transformations from business to technology. It transforms user experience of tax officials and taxpayers, as well as the culture of the tax operations. Huawei eTax solution portfolio provides comprehensive solution options for revenue authorities to achieve their digital tax administration. The solution contains the utilization of the new technologies such as 5G, artificial intelligence, big data, and cloud computing, and also the practice of our customers around the world. We are not only providing state-of-the-art products, but also consulting services to our customers for their digital transformation. We have professional experts who know about the product and also the business very well at over 170 countries to support our customers. We bring digital technologies to every revenue authority. Now it's time to define your future in a digital world. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. It is pleased and honored to be invited here to make my presentation to you regarding government taxation informatization. The main topic today will introduce you a new approach to fundamentally improve the transform the government revenue administration from traditional yearly direct income tax collection to the indirect turnover tax collection, in view of manufacturing and the service industry is booming up in developing country and other emerging economics. Year of 2020 is not a normal year for all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic will last this year, but in 2020. This pandemic has already profoundly impacted our life from every perspective. Many countries' economic development a serious hit. However, accompanied with this crisis, the opportunities of e-commerce and online services are booming up rapidly. From a government revenue collection perspective, It is also a right time to initiate a new wave of a taxation services reform in view of current situation. So to this end, I would like to use this opportunity to introduce Invoice management solution as well as the transactional-based government revenue collection administration approach. Before we come into the solution, I would like to brief some context of the current taxation industry and the government revenue collection business internationally. According to the OECD reports from 2017 to 2019, traditional yearly income tax return collection has reached its ceiling in many developed countries and developing countries as well. With employment rate increased in developing countries due to global supply chains shifting, individual taxpayer base has increased since 2010, but the corporate taxpayer increasement is not much as expected. That's why the government cannot expect the income tax revenue increasement to meet their financial plan. From turnover tax collection aspect, such as VAT and VRA return collection, due to insufficient professional staff member in government revenue authority and the lack of automated return assessment mechanism, it challenges government to precisely assess each VAT return with their business transactions data ought to justify the revenue collection and eliminate fraud VAT refund request. On the other hand, the income tax return will not be truly reflecting the national economic developments as well as real taxpayer income situation. Therefore, many countries' governments has adopted the automatic transactional-based revenue collection mechanism. With the electronic invoice, the administration system, the revenue collection increased about 3.6% in 2019 after a year of implementation of e-invoice system in Italy. Mexico government's revenue collection grew up 34% since e-invoice project implemented, and Brazil increased by $58 million in 2019. Overview the invoice industry and the automated transactional-based revenue collection implemented. There are two approaches adopted as follows. First, through unified invoice contents data protocol to be established and rolled out to implement electronic invoice platform nationwide. The pro of this approach is flexible to taxpayer to be able to design customized invoice layout, but the data contents should comply with the unified protocol published by the government. But the downwards is the electronic invoice issuing, authentication, and capturing will lean on the specific software system, which will increase complexity of implementation and rollout. The information security risk will be increased. Secondly, apart from unified invoice data protocol to be designed and published, the data storage format of the electronic invoice shall be also be unified with the PDFA or OFD. In this approach, business taxpayer still can design own invoice layout, but needed to be authenticated and archived by the revenue authority. Through this way, the invoice security could be improved very much. With mobile internet application development, e-commerce and online services are in rapid development pace, which contributed very much to national GDP growing. Finance Minister of Egypt has expressed that national business digitizing transformation has contributed to national GDP growing by 6 to 8%. He also complimented the Ministry of Finance is implementing a new National Revenue Administration system to cater for massive invoice data collection and auditing. Italian government implemented an automated auditing system in 2017 to integrate its revenue administration system with the banking system to assess and audit the income tax return and the VAT return through verifying and auditing of this payment transactions of taxpayer in banking system to eliminate possible tax fraud and tax evasion. Above mentioned, currently in many countries, especially in developing countries and emerging economic regions, the government has budget for initiation of e-invoice project to accommodate national digitized economic transformation. The main strategy of government taxation services is still as follows. Taxpayer base enlargement. Each business transactions of taxpayer shall be collected, assessed and monitored, control and justify the education and the refunded return through invoice assessment and audit. Create a big data system to track taxpayers' business and taxation behavior for risk profiling purpose. Narrow down the scope of a risk taxpayer to achieve deterrence of taxpayer delinquent and tax fraud, and lower down the government audit cost for taxpayers. Also in China, the tax administration system was launched up since 1993 with the adoption of a main strategy through invoice to control taxpayers' tax return. Through 3 phases golden tax project implementation, by the end of 2019, the revenue collection from corporate tax is over 18 trillion RMB, and over 94% of this income was contributed by VAT return collected. Currently, Chinese Revenue Authority is rolling out e-invoice project over entire country. As the witness, I've personally participated in this historical project since 2005, the Golden Tax Project Phase 2. Actually, look at the total solution of the e-invoice, which rich experiences in government taxation informatization industry. I would like to propose our e-invoice solution and the transactional-based revenue collection administration approach to the audience here. As I said before, the e-invoice system has 2 approaches. Unified Invoice Data Protocol and a Unified Invoice Data Protocol bound with Unified Data Storage Format, such as PDFA or OFD. OFD is the abbreviation of Open Fixed Layout Document, which has independent intellectual property in China, compatible with the Adobe's PDF and the PDFA system. Please look at the presentation. The working concept of invoice solution has 3 phases as per the business practice. The first phase is electronic invoice issue authorization phase. In this phase, all of business shall be registered as a business taxpayer. The registered business taxpayer shall apply the authorization of invoice issuing periodically by acquiring of segment of serial number of invoice from a revenue authority through the network. Once the business taxpayer registered as a user of invoice issuing, the taxpayer can submit the customized invoice layout in PDFA or OFD format for archiving and authentication. For each invoice layout data, the unique hash code program will be distributed to the business taxpayer for invoice data encoding and decoding when taxpayer issue invoice to the client. The second phase is the invoice issue and the receiving. When business taxpayer delivers service or sells goods to customer, the invoice shall be issued to the customer accordingly. With e-invoice system, The business taxpayer shall have a physical registered cashier installed for the invoice issue. The invoice data, including the taxpayer information and the customer's business information, such as TIN number and the related entity information, as well as the business transaction information, shall be conveyed to the revenue authority through the network electronically. And the customer will receive an electronic invoice through email, SMS, or dedicated app installed on their laptop, cell phone, or other communication devices. If the customer is also a business taxpayer and he intend to declare the purchase invoice for the VAT deduction or refunding, the customer shall declare this invoice through e-invoice system to Revenue Authority before the VAT return submission. The third phase is invoice assessment and the VAT return assessment and audit. When business taxpayer submits their VAT returns, in most usual circumstances, there is no need for taxpayer to submit their invoices or receipt unless the desktop audit request received from the Revenue Authority. But with e-invoice system, the Revenue Authority can easily assess the audit and audit the VAT return with the electronic collected invoice and the receipt information to justify the refund or deduction request from taxpayer. So there is a service portal shall be provided to the taxpayer for invoice management as a part of e-invoice solution, such as invoice issue application services. It is allow a taxpayer to apply the e-invoice from a Revenue Authority. Issued invoice records, inquiry, and purchase invoice declaration. To encourage a buyer to obtain and declare the purchase invoice at the beginning rolling out period of invoice project, some incentive policy could be developed and embedded into an invoice, such as a lotto according to the lucky number drawing up. The lucky number can be drawn from invoice serial number. Invoice verification. In some cases, taxpayer can receive a fake invoice from a business taxpayer. The service portal shall provide invoice verification function to assist the taxpayer to authenticate the invoices received and report to the Revenue Authority if any falsified invoice is received. Now, the reason of that we are saying it is the right time to implement e-invoice solution for the government revenue administration improvement and national digitized economic transformation is not a aforesaid business driver, but also due to the following ICT technology innovations. Firstly, cloud computing comprehensive network construction, including 5G mobile network rolling out to the nationwide and intelligently using of big data technology have made availability and the feasibility of such e-invoice solution to be implemented and rolled out. Secondly, high-performance edge computing technology is innovated and widely used in the area. We need huge workload for the data processing, such as comparing and searching from a massive data storage. This innovative technology will make real-time invoice assessment and audit be feasible. Thirdly, in view of cryptocurrency is profoundly penetrating into traditional business and e-commerce area, it should provide opportunity for the e-invoice to be interfacing with the cryptocurrency through using a blockchain blockchain technology to bind the money flow together with the business transaction information flow. It will benefit to the revenue authority to more precisely and efficiently collect the business information from taxpayer in needs of taxation business. On the other hand, due to the security consideration designed in the blockchain technology, it will bring the e-invoice with more information security feature in counterfeit and the non-repudiation. So finally, the e-invoice data can be seen as electronic records. So the records management policy and the related industry standards shall be complied with, such as a MORIC and ISO 15489. These kind of standards need to be complied with. It requires the electronic invoice system should have following features. The firstly, invoice reading and capturing dependence. It means that the reading or capturing of invoice data from the system, from the process, will not lean on a specific system, software system. So capturing or reading the invoice will be independent to any kind of system. If you have the PDFA reader or OFD reader installed in your laptop, the reading of invoice and capturing invoice should not be a problem. Invoice data storage and transfer independent and transparent. It means that the invoice data could be stored in any kind of storage. For example, the invoice data can be stored in a cloud-based storage facility. That will benefit for us to store the invoice securely and safety. Security system independent is mean that because a different country may have a different security policy and the different security facility provided. So that's why for the encoding and decoding purpose for the invoice data security. So invoice system should have open security facility to be embedded into a system to accommodate national-wide needs. Evidentially supported. All the invoices need to be stored as records to comply the record standards, which mean that electronic invoice could be evidence put on the courtroom when dispute come up. In conclusion, I would like to summarize the benefits from e-invoice project implementation. Through e-invoice project implementation together with transactional-based revenue collection mechanism realization, it will assist the government revenue authority to have a new approach to constantly collect the revenue from taxpayers' daily business in real-time basis. Through real-time basis justified turnover tax return collection to build up new source of government revenue increasement to benefit the national digitized economic transformation. Through massive invoice level assessment and audit integrated with a big data-based risk profiling system, greatly eliminated tax fraud and the tax delinquent, improve economic development and business investment environment, and simplified taxpayer taxation business from a complicated income tax return submission to automated turnover tax collection from its daily business transactions, uplifting government revenue administration from a manual operation to automated business process management and supervising, reduce the cost of a manual audit process and the related external audit resource hiring, bridge domestic economic development with the global supply chain value, uplifting trends through involvement of cross-border e-commerce in land revenue administration area. Thanks for watching.